So welcome, welcome, welcome. I am really, really excited to introduce you today to this incredible woman who I have the pleasure of getting to know. And I have to say, this is a first. You heard it here first, because this is officially the launch of her wonderful business, which is called Best Life Coaching and Training. And I am speaking to the fabulous Corina Griffin. So welcome to the internet world.
Thanks so much, Danielle, for that fabulous introduction. And thanks for having me on this. Really excited
I'm
to
very
be doing my
excited.
first Facebook Live.
Isn't it great, isn't it? We
Yeah.
might put this everywhere. We might put this on Instagram as well, and you never know where else. So wherever you're watching from, do give us a comment, say hello, go and follow Best Life Coaching and Training. It is on Facebook as a page on Facebook. You'll find Corina Griffin under Corina Gree, I think Gri as well. If you want to message her directly, she's an incredible woman. So we're going to get straight into it. But before we kind of dive into really your favorite topic and your favorite word and what you really specialize in when you're training people, I kind of want, which is, will we tell them what the word is?
Go for it, Danielle.
Okay, a really, really important word, because without this word, nothing in your life is going to work. You won't be able to succeed in your personal life, in your health, in your wealth, in your business, in any aspect of life, right? And it is the wonderful word resilience. So Karina specializes in resilience training, but before we kind of go into some questions around that, I'd love to start with you. Okay. I would love to ask you, so that our listeners will be able to get to know you a little bit more, what led you into this work, and what made resilience such an important topic for you?
Yeah, great question to start, Danielle. And I've felt called to do a business like this for a long time, because it started back in my 20s and again in my 30s. I experienced some really poor mental health, really struggled with mood, struggled with anxiety, even to the point where I didn't want to stay in this world. And I started doing counseling, I started doing CBT, I started doing self development work in my 20s. And that really got me over a hump and really started changing my life and making my life better. And then in my 30s, had another blip and went back then to that self-development work and went on to trained in counseling, trained in psychotherapy. I did a master's in cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's really what I loved. And that really shifted the needle and helped me live a really good life. My life is great now. I'm really proud to say and happy to say. And anecdotally, when I meet people from the self-development world, when I meet counselors, psychotherapists, nobody tells me, I woke up one morning and thought it'd be a lovely job to be coaching or training or doing self-development. They say, I learned things along the way. It changed my life dramatically and changed the lives of everybody around me then, because I was better. I was living the best version of myself. And because of that, I want to show other people the way. I want to be that light for other people, because sometimes all it takes is a really small shift in mindset. That maybe it's a recognition that we have agency, that we have power to change things. And yeah, that's what I want to do then, is maybe change somebody's life, maybe help people be the best version of themselves.
I love this, and I can so resonate with it, because like it sounds so similar to kind of my journey as well. So I think when we discover something that really works, and it works on us first, we're
Yeah,
so passionate to want to share that message, aren't we?
absolutely. And it's nearly like magic, and it's not a magic pill, but it's a magic process, and over time it just changes everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So today you work primarily as a resilience trainer, working with individuals and organizations, right? So if we were to kind of ask you how you do this, or how you plan to do this, when you go into an organization, a corporate, or a business as such, How would you describe this work in literally in person? How would you do this?
How would you do this? I think you help people look within themselves, because we know people have the answers within themselves. All they need is a little bit of guidance. And it's asking people primarily, who are you when you're at your best? What does the best version of yourself look like? How do you show up? How do you show up in your work? Whatever that is, as the best version of yourself. How do you show up in your love? And by love, I don't just mean romantic love with your significant other. I mean all the people that we interact with on a daily basis, all those relationships we have in life. How do you want to show up? How do you show up as your best self? And most of us want to be the best version of ourselves, but we may not have the emotional stamina to be the best version of ourselves. And the other thing, our energy. So it's very difficult to show up as our best self in work, in relationships, anywhere, if we're struggling with our own energy, if we're struggling with our mental health, and even if we're struggling with our physical health. So what do we need to do then? To first of all, what does it look like when we're our best selves in those three areas? And that moves us on then to the next question. What do we need to do?
Yeah.
So what do we need to do to make sure that our energy is, our health, our well-being is reaching its full potential?
Brilliant.
If we want the kind of relationships that we want to have, what do we need to do? How do we need to show up as our best selves? And then work. What is it that we need to be doing? Those fundamentals are so vital. So it's exploring that with people. It's looking at the concepts around resilience as well, obviously, that's psychoeducation. It's looking at our beliefs. And I know you talk so much about beliefs and the power of beliefs and our thought processes, our mindset. It's an insight job primarily. So we look at that, and the support structures around us play a huge role as well. We don't recover from mental health challenges or even addiction challenges. We don't recover in isolation. We recover in community with support around us. And I think that's so important as well. So yeah, they're the kind of things that we explore in the training.
Brilliant. I love it. So to take a little step back for a moment, to simplify it, to make it really, really simple. For those that haven't studied psychology and gone into the depths of all this work, for those who might hear the word resilience and aren't even really sure what it really means and how it benefits them, how would you explain it in really practical terms?
Okay, in its simplest form, Danielle, it's that bounce back ability. So it's from the Latin resilere, which is to rebound, to rebounce. But we're looking at it from a broader perspective. So if we take the analogy of the packages, right, the boxes, getting ready to be posted. So the first box is labeled fragile, okay? And the instructions on that box are, be careful how you deal with me, treat me with care, because if you knock me around a bit, I will break, I will shatter. Okay, so that's fragile. So we really don't want to be that box. So the next box then is labeled robust. Okay, and the instructions on that are, yeah, you can knock me around a little bit. I'm fairly robust. I might bend a little bit, I might crease a little bit, but you take me out when the box is delivered and hang me up on the hanger, dry me out a bit, and I'll be fine. I'll bounce back and I'll be exactly what was posted. So that's a kind of a good box to be in, right? But there's an even better box. And that box is labeled anti-fragile. And there was a researcher, he's a professor in NYU, he's Nassim Taleb, and he wrote a book called Anti-Fragile. So that's where that word is coming from. And the instructions on that box are, knock me around all you like, bring it on, because the more you knock me around, the stronger I will get, the more knowledge and data and power and wisdom that I will get from that adversity. And I know you love metaphors, right? And he has this great metaphor of the candle. Okay, so you have, and I actually have a little candle lighting here because I love candles. But if we talk about the wind, right, as being representative of life's adversities, the way life knocks us around and blows us down, right? The wind will blow out a candle. But what happens when you've got a fire? Do you ever watch the wildfires on the telly? They were the south of France. What happens? Those fires, the wind fans the flames. They go bigger, they go stronger. So that's the kind of anti-fragility that we want to develop. That's the kind of resilience that we want to develop.
I love that. I love that.
It's powerful.
Powerful analogy. I love that. I really love that. So why do you think that resilience matters so much now? Why has it become such an important skill today in life, in business, and in the workplace? Why do you think it matters?
I think the reality is life will knock every single one of us down and bring us to our knees at some point. You know, if you had 1 million people in the room, there is nobody who hasn't experienced an adverse life event or will at some stage. You know, we lose people we love. People we love get sick. We get terrible diagnoses. You know, people betray us. All of that. That life comes with suffering, comes with challenges, comes with adverse events.
It certainly does. So we have to prepare for them.
So exactly. So we have to accept them, I think, is the first thing. You know, I think it was Katie Barron that said, if we argue with reality, we're going to be wrong 100% of the time. So it's accepting that there is adversity in life. And then it's, how do we deal with that adversity? And as always, it's an inside job primarily. Our supports, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go ahead, sorry.
I was saying primarily it's an inside job. The support structures around us are absolutely vital. They're one of the things that we know will help us up when life brings us to our knees. And the other thing then is the inside job.
Yeah. And I was going to say, obviously, building your resilience muscle is obviously hugely beneficial then in business and corporates for people in there, because they're facing challenges, adversity, you know, problem solving every day. So without that ability to without having that muscle strong, they're in trouble, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah.
So one thing that you've spoken to me about before is you talk about how we interpret events. And so what's the difference between seeing a situation as a threat versus seeing it as a challenge? Talk a little bit through that. I mean, obviously we understand that concept in simple terms. So talk us through that a little bit more.
Yeah, so there's every difference in terms of how we see it, what our beliefs about the events are, you know. So there's, more often than not, there's very little we can do in terms of changing the event, but there's a lot we can do in terms of controlling how we look at it. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Do we see it as a challenge that will bring out our best selves, that hero within ourselves? You know, is it something that we just have to dig really deep for and meet head on? Or do we perceive it to be something as a threat that will crush us? That will be the end of us, maybe. Is that how we perceive it? And we know that our hormonal expression, our physiology responds completely different in response to whether we see it as an opportunity,
100%.
a challenge, or as a threat. And how do we see ourselves? So we talk about identity, and you talk about identity being such a strong bias. Our strongest bias is how we see ourselves. And do we see ourselves as a hero that can take on this challenge, somebody strong, somebody resilient, or do we see ourselves as a victim? And
it's a big difference, and it's all down into our perspective, isn't it? And one perspective is going to pull us under, and another perspective is going to lift us.
Exactly. And that's just a really small shift. But what's crucial is that shift needs to be happening a long time before the adverse event arrives. We need to go into training for that. If our automatic response is to go into victim mode, if our automatic response is to see any changes, any adversity as threats, so
I completely agree with that. Something I say all the time. And after also a long time in martial arts, I always use those analogies and those metaphors. You've got to train in advance. Like, there's no point in waiting. You don't train to be a black belt. So in one moment on the day, when you face the adversity, you train in advance for all of these things, any skill. So absolutely. Something else you talk about, and you've mentioned to me, is what you call anti-fragility. So how does this go beyond resilience? What talk us through this a little bit.
So the anti-fragility, it's that box that I spoke about at the start. And the instructions are, knock me around as much as you like. Bring it on. Because I see opportunity in life's adversity for me to grow, for me to grow stronger, for me to get data about my own strengths, about my own weaknesses, for me to get a sense of my power. So I only get stronger when you throw stuff at me. It's like that fire. And in that book, Ryan Holiday's bestseller, The Obstacle is the Way, he has that metaphor of the fire. And the fire consumes everything that's thrown at it, and it uses it as fuel to get bigger and get stronger. So that's the essence of that anti-fragility, and that's what we really want to develop, And there's this great clip on YouTube, and it's Michael Jordan, the legendary NBA basketball player, and he starts off, it's a Nike advert, right? And he starts off and he says, I failed and failed over and over again. And he makes a list, and it's something like, I lost hundreds of games. I missed hundreds of shots. I took the winning shot on 100 occasions and missed. And he lists those off. And then he finishes and he says, that's why I'm a winner, or that's what makes me a winner, And, we talk about that we either win or we learn. And it's looking, those times when we don't win, it's looking at the data that comes out of that. What do we learn from that? And there's a guy, Lenny Basham, and he's an Olympic gold medalist. He's based in the US, but he's an elite coach now. And he wrote a book, and it's called With Winning in Mind. So what makes a winner? What makes for these really resilient people that come back and win over and over again? And he says, after every performance, especially those that don't go well, 3 questions. What went well? So that positive reinforcement is really important. What are our strengths? Let's really take note of our strengths and focus on our strengths. Second question, what did I learn? Drawing learning, using the data, that there's really clear learning from those events. And then thirdly, what do I need to do now to ensure a better outcome the next time? So there's action. and action is power, as you know.
I love this. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people, like when they lose confidence, when things don't go well, right? But we know this. We know it. I mean, I know it from my own experience as well, that entrepreneurs and people that are successful, as you say, they use their setbacks as data, as information for growth,
Yes.
rather than evidence of failure. They're looking at that as evidence of, okay, the next step, the next thing. And a lot of time I relate this to when we talk about scientists, that they use the formula of, okay, it's one, we've learned, if they fail, they've learned one more way of how it doesn't work, which means that they're getting closer to the way that it will work. They've crossed one off their list. So if every time we fail, we look at it as just one thing more to cross off our list, now we're gathering more information about what will work, then we're using that data for winning. Isn't that right?
Yes, excellent. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So, and you talk about emotional stamina. So what does that mean? Is that the same thing as resilience, or, why is it so important, especially in demanding environments? What's the difference, or is it the same thing basically?
Emotional stamina, it's similar. It's very, very similar. So it's the opposite to emotional vulnerability, when we're really vulnerable to our emotions. Okay, so when we wake up when we're feeling a bit low and we're going, oh, fuck this, I'm not going to go out for my run this morning. We're at the mercy of our emotions. Oh, I don't think I want to go into work today because I have to do that presentation and I hate presentations. I have anxiety about those presentations. So I think I'll stay at home. So that's a sense of emotional vulnerability. It can be emotional dysregulation as well, can come from a place of emotional vulnerability, where we get dysregulated really quickly and we bite the head off somebody because we haven't managed to regulate our emotions. Whereas emotional stability is that ability to control our emotions, and in order to control them, we have to recognize them, we have to acknowledge them, we have to investigate them maybe a little bit, and despite those emotions, we do exactly what is right for us to do. We do things according to what the best version of ourselves would do. We become the hero of our lives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
and these are such important skills, because most of us spend our lives avoiding emotions, right? And when we learn how to acknowledge them, etc., then we learn how to manage them so much better. So it's such a great skill. So you also teach, as well as teaching this, you also teach kind of reflective practice. So what does that look like in a practical everyday life? What does that mean?
So reflective practice is taking an incident, taking an experience. And first of all, we write an objective account just to make sure that we're not coloring it. And of course, we see things not according to the world and how the world is, but according to how we are. So the first part of our reflective practice structure is that objective account. This is what happened. So like you write an objective report. The second part of that then is the relate and reflect. So it's relating our thoughts, relating our feelings as that situation unfolded. Getting an understanding of why we did what we did. It's never about beating ourselves up or focusing on how badly we handled it. It's about recognizing why we did what we did and what our thought processes and behavioral processes were. And the next part is the reflect, and that is drawing the learning from it. So what could I have done differently? What was the learning for me? What worked? Again, back to Lenny Basham's, that positive reinforcement. What worked really well for me? And then finally, the action plan, the goal. What do I need to do now to build on my strengths? Or it might even be, what do I need to do now to rectify the situation? So it's always with a view to doing it better the next time. It's always with a view to being that best version of ourselves on the next occasion. And I do have to say, there's people that don't like this notion of best version, but what we talk about is the best version, or that perfection is a guiding star. It's never a distant shore that we arrive at. It's that guides us. And obviously we need a degree of flexibility as well. But
I love this. Because so many people think that resilience means just pushing through, right? But it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the last questions I kind of want to ask you is, if somebody was kind of bringing you in, if you were going into an organization, if a company brought you in to deliver some resilience training, what are the biggest benefits that they would see for their staff, for their management, for their organization as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question as well, because very often we think ourselves that, when we have success, we'll be happy. But we know, and the studies tell us, that happy people are more likely to have success. If we have a happy workforce, if we have good morale around us, if we have good team spirit, if we have good leaders around us, then that has a huge effect on productivity, so that's, it's
Absolutely.
happiness, well-being is so linked to success. And I know well-being is really popular at the moment, and that's
so
not because companies are suddenly all loving and kind and cuddly.
Which is great.
Which would be lovely. Yeah. And I mean, hopefully there is an ethical side to it, but there is also a return on investment when we ensure as companies that our staff or employees are well.
I think we have grown so much as smart humans to be aware that well-being is a direct link. One, obviously people feel better, but it's a direct link. If they feel better, they're going to work better, right? So yes, absolutely, you're going to have better morale, you're going to have better leadership, you're going to have stronger teams, you're going to have more productivity, you're going to have better ability to make decisions, you're going to reduce burnout, you're going to reduce no-show up rate. People would be more, they'd be in work, so the more dependable, etc. So absolutely 100%, I completely agree. So if an organization, a team, a company are listening to this and thinking that they can benefit, right, from this type of training, you deliver talks, you can deliver a workshop, you can tailor, I suppose, a workshop to suit them, or a talk, or whatever it might be, a training for their organization specifically. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
And how would we get in touch with you? Obviously, where would we find you? Do you obviously on what's it called, Best Life Coaching and Training?
Best Life Coaching and Training. So I'm just starting to set up my social media. I'm just starting out on this journey, Danielle. So absolutely, please get in touch with me if it's something that you're interested in. It's Best Life Coaching and Training. Message me and I'll get right back to you.
Perfect. Okay, well, let's finish off with one maybe last question. What's one simple mindset shift that someone listening to this could start using immediately to become more resilient?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, a mindset shift. Again,
technique or method they could use to work on their resilience, to get better and be more resilient.
I would say choose one of those key areas. So the two things that make us human, according to Freud, are work and love. Okay, and again, I said your work isn't necessarily the job you go into. It's anything really. You might be a stay-at-home mom, and your work is at home, looking after your little ones. Love is the relationships around us, and we know what a powerful, profound effect they have on our well-being. And the third one then is our energy. And I would pick one of those and just write a few key points about how you want to show up, what your identity can be as your best self. And that's your vision then. And having that vision for yourself is really powerful. Identity is such a powerful bias. And that's one of the things I love about your work, Danielle, is that.
Yeah.
that
Oh,
sorry.
it's so aligned. We have so much in common. Absolutely, 100%. We're speaking from the same page, right? So 100%. I've loved it, Corina. It's been amazing listening to you. I love what you're saying about identity bias. Obviously, our identity bias. For anyone who doesn't know what identity bias is, explain it to them in simple terms.
Identity is who you believe you are. So if I believe I'm an athlete, well, I act accordingly. I might find it very easy to say I don't smoke because my identity is that of an athlete. I might find it very easy to get up in the morning, go out for a run because, hey, I'm an athlete. That's what athletes do. That's just like me to do it. So your identity provides a bias for you, if you like, in this sense, if it's an athlete, it's a really good bias. But if, for example, your identity is the clown in the family, in the class, if that's what you've been conditioned to believe about yourself, then that might be an identity that might come against you because it mightn't serve you if you're the class clown and you're there to entertain others rather than learn. If you have to be the clown, the funny one in the family, and people might treat you then accordingly. So it's this vicious circle. So if we have a really positive, strong identity, then it has absolute power to change everything about how we think, how we behave, and what's reflected back to us from the world.
So it's a good place to start. It's a good place to start for people to maybe focus on how they identify or who they believe they are.
Yes.
And maybe that will start building their resilience once they start adding that into the factor. That's brilliant.
Well, and it goes by saying, choose something positive as your identity.
Presumably that's what people want. We hope. So yes, absolutely brilliant, Corina. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've enjoyed it very much. And I trust that our listeners did also. Is there anything, last words you'd like to say?
What can I say? Bring it on. Let's go.
Bring it on. So go check out Corina Griffin. Give her a follow on Best Life Coaching and Training on Facebook. You'll see her all over social media soon. And get her into your company or organization and get your staff resilient. Okay. Thanks so much, Corina. It's been a pleasure.
Danielle, thanks so much for having me on, giving me the opportunity. It's been so lovely talking to you.